on his way. Devil is on his way. Devil is on his way, motherfucker. The devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Fall to your knees. Devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way.
Mountain Murders is an Appalachian true crime podcast. Some content may not be suitable for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
We say fuck a lot.
Hey, y'all. Welcome back to Mountain Murders.
I'm Heather.
And I'm Dylan.
It's Easter weekend, Dylan.
Yeah, I got eggs all over me,
You're
baby.
going to dress like a little bunny rabbit?
Oh, I'm going to hop around
Yeah.
like a sassy little rabbit.
You need a little fuzzy tail and some ears.
I need the pink outfit from Christmas Story.
You do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, you're kind of a lazy bunny. I think bunnies are energetic. You mentioned hopping around. You're like more of the Donnie Darko bunny.
Okay.
Who's going to walk around with like a beer can and a cigarette and like scowl at children.
I'm just going to lumber around, move very slowly.
Yes, just
Okay.
like that.
I'm the Donnie Darko rabbit.
Well,
Thanks.
yeah. Hey, Frank.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Happy Easter.
You know, that movie's really weird. I rewatched part of it not long ago.
I
I was
love
like,
that
what
movie.
the fuck? No wonder this was such a mind fuck when I was younger.
I liked that movie.
Right.
It was good.
How are you, Heather?
You know, I'm hanging in there, Dylan. We've been a little late to get episodes out. It's not for lack of trying. I've been in the studio daily working on episodes and researching cases and reading books.
Yeah, I got to say, Heather has 4 or 5 cases out ready, which is a lot. And it's really just getting me in the chair because it's gotten crazy at the mill. And so here we are. We're trying to get caught up, and we're going to do better.
It's true, Dylan. And I've really tried to make an effort to read different types of books because my Kindle and my Scribd app are full of true crime books. And I've been trying to branch out. I found myself listening to an audio book when I went out of town last weekend to Michigan, which is another reason why we're a bit late getting episodes out. I listened to an audio book like the drive up and the drive down, and I really enjoyed it.
I've been saying that. I obviously love podcasts of various subjects.
Sometimes I have to take a break from podcasts.
Yeah. And certainly certain types of podcasts. You got to mix it up. I usually mix in history or some American inventions or something like that. I think we all have our kind of goofy or just, not true crime podcasts we have to go to sometimes because it just gets to be a lot in
You
your
need
brain.
like a palate cleanser.
Yeah, exactly. But I think listening to ebooks is a great option.
Yeah, I listened to Stephen King's The Dead Zone.
You said the book was quite different.
It's very different from the film.
Than the movie.
Of course, the film had Christopher Walken in it. It's pretty old. It came out like, what, in the early 80s maybe?
Oh, yes.
Late 70s, early 80s.
It's ancient.
I mean, yeah, it's a pretty old film.
Well, yeah, it's
But
pushing
the book's totally different, and it was narrated by James Franco, and I never realized how annoying he was until I got to about chapter 21, and I was like, I don't want to listen to James Franco speak anymore.
So do we want to even contemplate the fact that if something was made in 1970, that was 53 years ago?
Gosh.
Jesus.
I feel like 1986 was just like 2 days ago.
I was talking last night we were doing a little karaoke in the living room, living our best life.
We were having the best time.
And I was just like, the 80s was fun. It was such a good time. I wish I could go back and just be like mid 80s.
Yeah. I mean,
early
Wayne
90s.
Chung said it best. Everybody have fun tonight.
Yeah, mid 80s to early 90s was a good time.
Music was better.
Music was better. Everyone didn't argue as much. You know what I mean? We were pushing towards a just treat everyone the same kind of mentality in our society. I felt like we made some good inroads in many respects to that. Like with the gay community, kind of came out officially to the nation. And I know it was hard for many people, but I think it seemed like we were making progress, moving forward.
Lately, we seem to be regressing.
We're regressing.
And just divisive.
It's just gross.
And everybody cares about everybody else's business. It's like, just shut the fuck up and do your own thing. Who cares?
There's a tenet I live my life by. Do whatever I want as long as I don't harm another.
Do what thou will.
Yes.
It's true.
So that's why we're here in the true crime, to take our mind off all that dumb shit. Okay?
And focus on some other types of dumb shit.
Yeah. So Heather, Take us on the journey.
Okay, so first, can we give a shout out to a new patron, Jennifer?
I will allow it.
Okay, thanks, Jennifer. You are sponsoring today's episode.
Thank you, Jennifer. So all the content coming forth in this next episode, Jennifer's responsible for every word of it.
It's your fault, Jennifer.
It's your fault, Jennifer.
Rosemary was born in May 1963 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and was soon adopted by Mildred and William Tomoski. She attended the former St. Thomas High School in Pittsburgh, and in 1981 graduated and went to study at Syracuse University in New York State. Rosemary wanted to work in the movie industry, so she earned a degree in film. Now, Dylan, you've told me before that you, once upon a time, kind of had an interest in the film industry.
Yeah, I really did think it would be something to, be part of the crew, the behind-the-scenes crew, the grips, electricians, carpenters, all that. I thought it'd be a really cool industry to be in.
And you were an extra in a film, right? But your part got cut? Is that...
It's true.
Tell us about this.
Well,
because of all the things I know about Dylan, this was one of the most surprising to me to learn.
There used to be a casting office in our tiny little town of Canton, and they would find extras for because some people don't know, North Carolina actually has quite a bit of filming happens in our state.
Absolutely.
And I think one of the unique things about the state is you got the mountains, you got the flatlands, and you have beaches, so you can kind of do all of it. And anyway, so me and a friend went in there just out of being young and dumb, like I want to be in a movie. And they were doing extras for the movie In Dreams with Annette Bening
and Robert Downey Jr.
Robert Downey Jr.
It's a fucked up movie. I feel like it could have been done better.
Yes.
It's a movie, in my opinion, that deserves a remake because it could be very fucking creepy if it was done correctly.
Yes, and this was Robert's during his dark period in his life when he was on drugs and, kind of the bad boy of Hollywood. And this was kind of, I wouldn't call this his comeback film, but he was just, it was like he's just trying to pay the bills.
The late 90s.
The late 90s. And I think you get that from the performance is, his heart's not really in it because he turns out he's a pretty fucking good actor. You know what I mean? But anyway, and I got to meet him. I was on the SWAT team. I was a policeman in the movie and dressed all up like a cop. And so it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. They filmed in Tennessee. Yeah.
At a dam.
At a dam.
Right?
Yeah.
A lake over there.
Yes. I got to see a stunt man jumped off the top of the dam down into the water. And, got to just, and it was funny. And I could kind of tell that this part of the production maybe wasn't going to make it. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times they'll go back and refilm entire parts of the movie, which happened to all our shit got cut out. But they just weren't doing real good with the details. You know what I mean? Like on the police costumes, you'd have like the vest on and stuff. They were sticking like styrofoam cups and stuff in your pockets to make it look like you had stuff in your pockets. And I'm just like, bro,
that's funny.
What is this? What's y'all's budget? $15? What the fuck's happening right now? Have you ever been an extra in a movie?
Fuck no.
Okay.
No, but once in college, my friend was an extra on The Patriot, the Mel Gibson film.
Wow.
They had a sign up in our theater department that they were like looking for long-haired actors, and my friend fit that description. He's like hippie dude. Went to be on The Patriot and got kicked in the head by a horse like the first day he was on set and was too afraid to tell anybody because he didn't want to like get kicked off the film.
Oh my God. So
and just endured getting kicked in the head by a horse.
So he's just walking around with a concussion.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh my gosh.
Which I always think about that when I think about extras.
Yeah, he's just like, fuck it, dude. I'm here. I'm in it to win it.
Yeah, if I'm dying, it's going to be next to Mel Gibson on the battlefield.
My uncle was an extra in, was it Gettysburg, the movie?
It was the one with Matthew Broderick.
Gods and Monsters.
Maybe. Or
Yeah.
Glory.
Glory?
Wasn't that the one?
Okay.
With Matthew Broderick?
It's one of those.
It's like a Civil War film.
Yeah, and he's real big Civil War buff about the history of the country and the war and all that. And he got to do that. And it sounded like a really cool experience because that's one of those where they have tons of extras. They're doing these big wide shots, of course, well before CGI and stuff. And so when they need a shot of 1,000 people on a field, they need 1,000 people on that field. You know what I mean?
It's pretty cool.
I've always found that very interesting.
Well, here we are back to our story. So Rosemary wanted to work in the film industry. It seems fun. There's a lot of cool stuff. And she actually became like a freelance camera operator. We'll get to that here in a minute. While attending college, Rosemary took a job working as a hostess in a restaurant to earn some extra money. She then fell in love with the food industry. Culinary arts, Dylan.
Is she ADD? Because she gets really hyper-focused and excited about things, but then moves on 3 weeks later?
Don't talk about me like that.
Sounds like does it kind of interest anyone in a cricket?
Shut up.
Or all the stuff to make your own soap? Or... well, you can sew. We have some sewing
I like
equipment.
Crafting things.
Would you like to make quilts? We have the equipment.
Okay, I hate you.
It's true, though. These are all true.
Why don't you suck it? So she falls in love with the food industry. And Rosemary, as I mentioned, worked as a freelance camera operator, but she kind of kept returning to the idea of becoming a chef.
I feel where she's coming from.
Now, eventually, she decided to enroll at the International Pastry Arts Center. Rosemary learned pastry arts are more than just baking a cake in 2 hours. Like, for example, bread. Bread is all the time. Good bakery items such as fresh bread don't happen in a short period of time. It's a lengthy process. Yet Rosemary was attracted to the time and attention to detail that it took to be a dedicated pastry chef. She began working with Albert Cumin, a chef who worked at the White House under the Carter administration. Cumin was a renowned pastry chef who created desserts at the Four Seasons and Windows on the World in Manhattan. His signature Grand Marnier cake was famous at Manhattan's Twin Towers. So for Rosemary to be able to train under such an icon was a pretty sought-after apprenticeship, and she was like beside herself.
A Grand Marnier cake. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
got
like
that orange liqueur flavor.
a lot of times, if you're doing everything from scratch with bread and certain pastries, like you're doing preparation a day or two ahead of time, right? So you got to mix your dough, you got to let your yeast rise, and all that.
All of that.
It's not an easy thing, but fresh bread and stuff like that is so good, right?
Yeah.
I wish I had fresh bread right now.
I can make some.
Will you make me some fresh bread,
I
baby?
have some active yeast in the cabinet.
Whoa.
I can make you some bread.
Damn.
She met another chef in New York named Sergio Franco, a native Brazilian. In 1987, the pair were married. Both worked in the New York restaurant scene until 1991. After Sergio was mugged in the city, which caused him to have mixed feelings about living there because he thought it was dangerous, and with both working long hours, it just didn't seem to be that safe to be out late at night.
You know, it's got to be fairly traumatic to be mugged on the sidewalk. Someone just come up and cram a knife in your ribs or a gun or whatever and just threaten you with just...
I've been mugged. It's terrifying.
It sounds very bad. And it seems like something almost like if a home invasion or a robbery at your home that just kind of takes away a sense of feeling safe in security. So I'm sure you think about that for a long time afterwards, right?
No, you do. It's very traumatic. It
Okay.
makes you not want to go out at night. It makes you feel very weirded out. Your head's on a swivel. You are kind of in a constant state of like hypervigilance. It's frightening. Now, around this time, Rosemary visited a college friend named Karen Newman who lived in Charleston, South Carolina. After returning, Rosemary urged Sergio to accompany her for a trip to the historic southern town. And of course, they fell in love with the city. And what's not to love? As we know, Dylan, Charleston, South Carolina sits on an inlet of the Atlantic Ocean, which served as a port town for centuries. It is the largest city in South Carolina and the 8th largest in the Deep South. Charleston is known for its local seafood, which plays a key role in the city's renowned cuisine, comprising staple dishes such as gumbo, she crab soup, fried oysters, the Low Country boil, deviled crab cakes, red rice and shrimp, and grits.
Oh my gosh.
All the delicious things that we fucking love to eat in this household.
Can I have a plate of that?
Of all of it?
Yeah.
You're not a huge fan of the Low Country boil, though.
I got to say.
I have to say, that's not one of Dylan's favorites.
I don't know what it is. It's just something about that combination of stuff doesn't appeal to me. And I like all those things separately. I don't
You just
know.
don't like them together.
It just seems like a really, really heavy meal, with all the potatoes and the corn and the various seafoods.
Yeah.
But I would go to a Low Country boil with you, a boil, and I would try to have a really good time. But at the same time, I would find the menu off-putting.
I will eat all
Does
of it.
that make sense?
I will be like, put it in my mouth.
So I'll be like that little tray that you put your little flimsy paper plates on. I'll just hold your food for you.
Thank you.
I'll present it.
Okay.
All right.
And I'll eat my corn on the cob.
Yeah, I'll eat your corn on the cob.
I love all these things. Shrimp and grits, red rice.
Anybody out there having a low country boil here locally
Devil
in
crab cakes.
WNC, please invite Heather because she really does love the idea.
Yeah, I love the food.
I'll bring
I
wine.
just want to eat it all. Now, rice is the staple in many dishes, reflecting the rice culture of the Low Country. The cuisine in Charleston is also strongly influenced by British, French, and West African elements.
I got to say, when I was shocked one time when I went to a barbecue joint in South Carolina, I was traveling to the beach with friends, and they always stopped and ate at this barbecue joint. And I was like, cool, it must be really good, you know. And I come from the eastern part of North Carolina where we have the vinegar-based sauce and all that, and love that. But they serve rice with their barbecue. They like take the beans out of play and they put rice. And I was like, what the hell? I didn't know what to do with the rice. But it was good. Turns out it's good with barbecue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Well, apparently they like rice down that way.
Okay. Well, with a bustling food scene, Charleston's slower pace appealed to the couple. They relocated and took jobs working in local restaurants. They finally purchased a brick carriage house built in 1794.
Wow.
Located at 79.5 Anson Street as their residence. Now, how cool is that to live in one of these historic homes in Charleston?
Wow, that's a really old home.
I wonder if it's haunted.
I'm sure it has some type of energy.
I've been feeling like our house has become haunted lately.
Well, I think
When we first moved in here, I didn't really feel anything, but as of late, some weird shit's been happening. I've been hearing a lot of strange sounds that I can't explain.
I got to say, and I'm sure some people roll their eyes when we say things like this, but there does seem to be some activity now once that we finally settled in here. And it feels like someone else is there. You'll be upstairs, and our house is real creaky, old. Our house is old as well, built in 1904. And you'll just, because you can tell when you can hear and feel when people are moving around because the floor's squeaky, you hear doors, and you'll hear that, but you'll know that you're the only person in the home.
Well, last night you thought someone was at our bedroom door.
Yes.
Yeah. And you were like, do you hear that? I was like, the car outside?
Maybe we were just high. Maybe it was the gummies.
No, I don't know. We hear shit all the time, and I don't think it's the edibles, bro. In 1992, Rosemary and Sergio negotiated the purchase of the Primrose Restaurant on East Bay Street from the Yeager family. However, the relationship between the former owners and Sergio was not good. It was described as, quote, antagonistic. Joanne Yeager did not like Sergio at all.
Yeah, it's like you either love or hate a Sergio. You know what I mean?
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think there's any in between.
She felt he was dangerous and even called him a malignancy.
Wow.
Yet Joanne didn't think it was her place to warn Rosemary. Joanne even made an official statement to her legal counsel at the time about how she thought Sergio was no good. Her attorney thought it was a touch of paranoia, but made a note about his client's opinion in some of his paperwork when handling this real estate transaction.
So is he thinks Sergio is a ne'er-do-well?
That's what she thinks.
That's
She's
what
just
she
not,
thinks.
she doesn't like him.
Just nothing about him she likes.
They seem to have personality conflict, and she sees him as a bad man. And at first, this gives her pause to sell the restaurant to this man.
Well, I was going to say, this seems like an unlikely pair to have some kind of a business interaction. If you don't care for someone this strongly, you just don't want to have any dealings with them, and you might not want them to have your restaurant that you've poured, all your passion into, right?
So as the deal was about to fall through, it was Rosemary who was able to charm the Yeagers into selling the property. Finally, the Primrose was transferred to the Francos, and this sale was all contingent on Rosemary's diplomacy, being able to kind of bridge this gap between her husband and this owner who did not like each other.
So if it wasn't for Rosemary, the deal would have never happened.
Exactly. Now, Primrose House was built by Robert Primrose of Scottish heritage. His grandfather, another Robert Primrose, was a surgeon back in Scotland, and his father, Nicole, immigrated to America and settled in Charleston around 1780. Nicole made his living here as a merchant. Robert Primrose was born in Charleston and, like his father, became a wealthy Charleston merchant. Primrose was a member of the St. Andrew's Society, that prestigious benevolent society founded in Charleston back in 1729, with its first president being General William Moultrie of Revolutionary War fame. In the early 18th century, immigrants to Charlestown founded benevolent societies to help new immigrants find jobs, housing, and assist with some of the basic needs they would have.
Oh, yeah? What?
Most of these societies are still in existence, but operate only as social clubs now. However, many still give scholarships to local youth and students. The St. Andrew's Society meets regularly and has an annual banquet where they drink scotch and eat haggis.
Now, does haggis involve eggs?
No, I think it's like a sheep's intestines or something.
Oh, yes.
I think it's sort of like a sausagey thing.
Are you fidgety today?
A little bit.
I think you're making noise.
And Primrose House was part of the Anson Rehabilitation Project founded by the Historic Charleston Foundation, and donated to the foundation by Mr. and Mrs. Charles Woodward back in 1960. So this building they're purchasing, this Primrose House that they're turning into a restaurant. Or, this is like a very famous historic property.
Right. And
which is probably another reason why maybe Joanne Yeager was reticent to sell to a man she didn't like.
Well, yeah, when you have a property that with this kind of history, it's almost like the property belongs to the community. You just happen to be the new owner. And it's like people are concerned about what you do with the property. If you start making major changes, people pay attention.
By 1994, Rosemary Franco purchased another property owned by the Yeagers, and she named it the Primrose Bakery. She and her husband Sergio had settled into their new lives in the South with a grueling schedule. Rosemary's work at the bakery began around 4 a.m. She went into the bakery early to begin preparing breads for the day and usually closed up around 2 p.m. She would then stop by the restaurant to assist her husband. By 5 p.m., Rosemary was usually home for a few hours and then in bed by 8 p.m. It didn't leave a great deal of room for socializing. Sergio left for work around 10 a.m. every morning and rarely left the restaurant until midnight, sometimes later. Both were exhausted, and they barely had much time for even sleeping.
Wow, so he's doing 14, 15-hour days. Rosemary's doing her own 14 or 15-hour day every day. They say you never work harder until you do your own business.
Well, and I think anyone who's ever worked in the food industry knows it's grueling. It's tough. Chefs do work their asses off. I mean, they're there from open to close. They have to oversee every aspect of the kitchen, making sure all the prep is done for the day.
All the cleaning.
I mean, it's a lot of work. And you have two chefs married to each other, owning two businesses, then working two separate jobs, and then trying to work together. It's a lot.
But that's what happens when you're a small business owner. Sometimes I think the disconnect is small business owners expect their handful of employees to have the same passion that they have for their small business, and that's just typically not how it works. Because you're benefiting, you are putting in these long days, but you're also getting a bigger benefit out of this because it's your company, it's your business. I'm not as excited for $8.50 an hour about doing this as you are. You know what I mean?
The Francos' marriage, according to Rosemary's friends, was beginning to falter. The couple devoted every minute to their businesses and careers with little time together. In spring of 1994, Rosemary was invited to a national culinary arts event in New York City, along with two other male chefs from Charleston. Before her trip to New York City, Rosemary and Sergio spent a week-long vacation in the Cayman Islands, and this was kind of in hopes to rekindle their romance.
Oh, yeah, baby. That's hot, steamy night in the Cayman Islands. Or the coming islands, you know what I'm saying? I want to take you down there. I want to fly you down there.
This makes me not want to go with you.
Yes, I want to fly you down there.
Okay,
And
I'll just
yeah, baby.
stay by myself.
Are
here.
you sure?
You can go.
You want me to go by myself to have
Yeah.
a hot, steamy night?
Yeah. Well, I think you do a lot of things by yourself, so it's fine.
That's not true.
Yeah.
That's not true.
Others say the marriage was fine. As a matter of fact, Sergio walked to his wife's bakery every morning before starting his shift at the restaurant. He would get a coffee from the bakery, always taking time to hug and kiss his wife, no matter who saw him. Rosemary's mother said Sergio doted on Rosemary, quote, like they were honeymooners. Sergio was very affectionate with his wife, so much in fact that their mutual friends often teased them about it. So this is a part of a story that is, I guess, a little complicated or confusing, right? Is that you have a few of Rosemary's friends saying, well, the marriage was in trouble. But then you have other folks who are like, this was a great marriage.
And that he was a doting husband.
They adored each other.
Right.
They seemed like they were still in that honeymoon phase years after they had been married.
Even after these grueling schedules, the owning their small businesses, working constantly, some people said they were still very much in love and
Yeah,
loved each other.
Exactly. Those who knew Sergio said he was a very kind man. He loved animals and people. Old sea captains would often come to the restaurant just asking for a glass of water, and Sergio would demand they sit down so he could feed them a meal on the house. Rosemary's brother, a police officer, said there were no outward signs of trouble in the marriage at all. If anything, Sergio was always kissing his wife's cheeks and calling her pet names,
Oh,
which was kind of gross.
oh,
No, I'm just kidding.
like a sugar humps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My little fresh baked loaf of bread.
Oh wow.
A little sexy baguette, you.
Yeah, I'm gonna butter you up,
Yeah.
baby. I can't wait to do my creeper podcast.
Please don't.
I'm gonna
Or you're just gonna say creepy things.
just I'll give people a small excerpt.
I don't
Just
think-
say a random thing.
I don't think anything. No.
Just say a random thing. Just do it.
Banana sundae.
Oh yeah,
Banana.
baby.
Banana split.
Oh, that's easy. I want you to split my banana.
Okay, stop. Ooh.
Get that
Quit. Just quit.
warm chocolate sauce. Drip it
Okay, just stop, or we're gonna quit podcasting
over
right
my
now.
body.
It was stop. It was August 10th of 1994, 1 week before her trip to New York City, that Rosemary left the restaurant around 5 p.m. as usual. Around 5:15 p.m., Sergio went to an Eckerd's drugstore and returned about 30 minutes later. Soon after, Sergio had an accident in the kitchen while preparing fish. He had burned himself with grease.
Oh, fucking Eckerd's, bro. Eckerd's was the bomb.
That's the part of the story. That's what you're taking away from this?
Eckerd's and Revco. You know what I'm saying? Let's go.
Okay. Now, the injury seemed to agitate him for the rest of the night. He showed the burn to everyone in the kitchen who was working. He even called Rosemary at home to complain about the burn, but told the others, quote, she didn't answer the phone.
So he's just he's really been affected by this burn. It's like taking over his life.
Well, I mean, if it's a severe burn, I can understand that.
I've got to say, I hate getting burned. Almost as bad as I hate getting cut or sliced with a blade of any sort.
Maybe he's just looking for a little bit of sympathy here, Dylan.
Well, see, that's what I'm wondering. Because him being a chef and working all these long hours, I'm sure it's not the first burn he's ever had, right? And you would expect, unless it is just a horrible, pushing third-degree burn, you would expect he wouldn't be showing it to it wouldn't be such a big deal to him, right? Unless there's some other underlying issue or emotion he's feeling, and he's just expressing it through his burn.
Sergio closed the restaurant early, then went to grab drinks at Vickery's with a friend named Peter Simons. It was around 11:15 that night that Sergio and Simons returned to the Franco's carriage house. When Sergio noticed the lights on inside and the door unlocked, he asked Simons to accompany him into the house, saying, quote, something's wrong. She should be asleep.
And then there's the first inkling of an unsettling feeling when you see something like this, something out of the ordinary, right?
Inside the house, Sergio went upstairs to check on his wife. Immediately after, he yelled for Simons. The two men found Rosemary on the floor, the carpet around her soaked in blood. Simons ran downstairs to call 911, and once the men called for help, they waited in the driveway for emergency services to arrive. Two officers arrived to find Sergio freaking out, saying, quote, "My wife has been murdered. She's dead in the house."
Okay.
One officer went inside while another stayed outside with Sergio and Simons. While waiting, Sergio said, quote, "Boy, what a bad day. I burned my face and now my wife has been murdered."
So there's two things on his bad things for the day list: getting burned, and then his wife's also been murdered.
Within the hour, 30 officers were swarming the scene, including the medical examiner's office and the Charleston Police Crime Scene Unit. Inside the house, detectives found blood-stained bedding in the guest room. There was blood splatter on the walls and carpet. A pillow had powder burns and 2 gunshot holes in it. Furniture was overturned in the room, which indicated signs of a struggle. A pair of bloody latex gloves were placed on top of a dresser. Rosemary was wearing a t-shirt, black underwear, and red socks. Her ankles and wrists were bound behind her back with duct tape. The shot had been at close range, once in the head and another in the back. From behind, the assailant had stabbed her 30 times in the back. It was such a brutal attack that nearly all the blood had drained from Rosemary's body, soaked through the carpet, the floor, and the walls, and pooled below onto the living room floor downstairs.
Jesus.
Yeah.
How do you just keep stabbing somebody like that? I just don't. Because, there's you feel all that. You feel the knife piercing their body and scraping bone, and you just keep going and going. A whole lot of stabs like that, which stabbing period I find is very personal and intimate. It's almost akin to a strangulation. Very, not easy, very messy, lots of struggling. But when you get into the 20, 30, 40, 60 times you've stabbed this person's body, I don't know. That's just like a whole nother level of intensity and rage for me. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to be stabbed. Do you?
No, it's
and so you never. Here's another
horrific.
scary thing about it, and I'll shut up. Is you never know which one was the fatal one. It could have been the 30th stab. Could have been the fatal one, and you're having to feel and endure this the entire time.
Well, that or it could be like the.
Or it could have been the first one.
I was gonna say it could be the close shot, gunshot to the back of the head, Dylan.
Well, yeah. So now you're having extreme overkill, right? So you're shot, and when you shoot and stab, I mean, come on, dude, what are you doing?
It only took 4 days for police to arrest Sergio and charge him with Rosemary's murder. Most everyone who knew Sergio Franco was surprised. Even Rosemary's mother, Mildred Tomoski, said, quote, "I can't see it. My gut said no, he didn't do it." Police theorized that Sergio left the restaurant, walked 3 minutes away to the carriage house they shared, beat his wife, tied her up, shot her, and then stabbed her repeatedly before returning to work. Police suggested that Sergio returned to the house with Peter Simons, an associate, to discover the body, saying it was all an act to cover up the slaying. In an affidavit, police said Sergio knew about the crime scene and asked someone to accompany him as a witness when he returned to the house that night. Captain Jerome Taylor told the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, quote, "There is sufficient evidence to believe he did it," but gave no specifics as far as evidence or what led law enforcement to arrest Sergio. However, one detective said Sergio made a damning statement when he was being questioned. Sergio said, quote, "Do you really think I stabbed my wife all those times?" To which the detective replied, "I never said she was stabbed." Sergio said he could tell she was stabbed because he had been a butcher and recognized the stab wounds on her body when he found her. So is this evidence of a crime or simply a good guess by someone who has experience butchering meat? And I'm assuming when you approach a body that has been stabbed, you can tell this person has been stabbed, right?
Well, I mean, it depends on the circumstances, but yeah, if you can see anything at all, let alone when you've been stabbed this many times, yeah, I don't think that's outside the, realm.
But police are taking this
Like, there's no way he could have known.
like he could have never known. Yeah.
Well, you know how cops do. They get blinders sometimes, or they
Tunnel vision.
Tunnel vision, and they very quickly, a lot of times, I think, have an idea of what they think happened. I think they develop that idea very quickly once they come to the scene, and it seems like sometimes they, wrong or right, they just They discount any evidence that doesn't support the theory they've already developed in their head, and they kind of latch on to very small details that they feel like supports their theory.
4 months after his arrest, Sergio was finally able to walk out of the Charleston County Jail free on bond, wearing an electric ankle monitor. About 2 weeks after he bonded out, Inside Edition aired a segment about the murder, comparing the case with the June 1994 murder of Nicole Brown Simpson. Part of the story included some suggestion that Sergio was a cocaine dealer with powerful contacts in South America. Another theory said Sergio was jealous of his wife's upcoming trip to New York City with 2 male chefs.
New York City. I'm sorry, I had to do it once.
The case against Sergio Franco was presented to a grand jury 3 times, but the solicitor failed to get an indictment. No gun or knife used to stab Rosemary was ever recovered, nor were any clothes that might have been worn by her husband if he was the killer. Rosemary's estimated time of death was between 4 to 9 p.m. There was no sign of forced entry into the home, which meant that Rosemary had likely let her attacker in the house.
Or the door just happened to be unlocked.
Also, there was no sign of sexual assault and nothing missing from the home. Sergio's attorney, Andrew J. Savage III, said he believed his client was a scapegoat charged by officers who had immense pressure to solve the murder because it was an affluent neighborhood. Savage said the police arrested the wrong guy. He also noted that Sergio had ample opportunity to flee to his home country of Brazil, but did not. Sergio was given permission to leave South Carolina and return to New York City for work. He was released in the care of his brother-in-law while wearing the ankle monitor in New York. In January of 1995, the charges against Sergio Franco were dropped, citing a lack of physical evidence. In particular, there was a mysterious DNA sample at the crime scene, some bodily fluid that did not belong to Rosemary or Sergio. And as of today, Rosemary's murder remains unsolved.
What the hell? So this woman was just brutally attacked, shot, stabbed, and that's just it.
Yes. So here's my question, Dylan. If they are trying to speculate, theorize, that Sergio left the restaurant, walked 3 minutes to the home,
yeah,
murdered his wife, and then came back to work,
yeah,
how in such a short period of time that he could vanish from the restaurant and no one would notice?
What's their window? 5 minutes?
I mean, they're saying...
Or 3 minutes
for him
there?
to just randomly leave the restaurant for a few minutes and come back. Now, he did go to that drugstore for 30 minutes.
Okay, so...
but he would have to be able to change clothes.
Yeah.
He would have to be able
Nobody
to wash
noticed
up.
him in new clothes because, if you're a chef, you're going to be getting dirty with flour, food stuff, and you're going to look a certain way when you leave. So if you come back in fresh clothes, people are going to notice that because that's probably something you don't normally do. And so even if he, beyond the drugstore, 3 minutes there, I don't know how long it takes to stab and shoot someone and all that. Another 3 minutes, then 3 minutes back. I mean, but then he shows back up after this very brutal attack, and he's fine.
And just cooking.
He's just cooking. No one notices anything. But what was the motive? If it wasn't Sergio, who was it? Because there was nothing missing. It seemed like the only thing the person was there to do was kill Rosemary, right? It doesn't seem to, robbery doesn't seem to be motive. Right. Sexual assault doesn't seem to be the motive. So it's very strange. It's a very strange case. And usually if you surprise a burglar or something like that, or they come into your home and don't know you're there, you're not going to have this overkill. Okay, if there is some kind of a struggle and they end up accidentally killing you because that really wasn't their intent, it's not going to be shot with a shotgun and stabbed 30 times. You know what I mean? It'd be blunt. It's typically a blunt force weapon of opportunity right there as you're struggling. You grab something, hit them in the head, and then you run out and they die. But certainly not this kind of overkill. So what do you think?
Well, I don't know, and it doesn't really make sense. I mean, because they own these 2 businesses, which very much seem to be sort of tied to each other. And so what would be the benefit
of getting rid of her?
Of getting rid of her, because then she's not there to run the bakery.
She's irreplaceable.
So you've lost
half your business.
And then he ended up having to close the restaurant down. He couldn't make a living in South Carolina and had to go work in New York after her murder. So lost a business that they had invested all this money into.
So what's the motive?
So what was the motive?
Typically, the motive is going to be financial. They're in some kind of horrible debt that's all about to be exposed, and insurance money will fix it or whatever. Or another person, some kind of adultery or, other relationships, someone pressuring them to move on, divorce your wife, whatever. But there's no evidence of any of that here.
No, but what makes me, I guess, what my true crime mind immediately goes to, and like, I don't know the situation. I'm just going on what the research says here.
Tell us.
I don't know
Heather.
Rosemary personally, but it seems like everyone who's seeing their marriage is like, no, they were loving. They had a great relationship. Things were fine. But then Rosemary had a group of friends saying, well, it wasn't great.
Well, and she very possibly could have had a close group of friends who knew the truth, who knew about what was going on behind closed doors type of thing. And so, I mean, that's
Or maybe,
possible.
well, I mean, it could be maybe Rosemary was leading a bit of a secret life. Like maybe she was telling her friends, I'm unhappy. Maybe she was seeing someone.
See, okay.
And maybe her husband was clueless and he thought the marriage was fine and they were in love and he's in love with her. Maybe she's the one that was like,
Maybe she's
not
the
so
one
happy.
with the other person pressuring her to leave her husband, but she has these two businesses tied together and she doesn't want to or can't see a way to leave her husband. And they're the pissed off lover. And then they come and murder her for that type of revenge.
Well, because the fact that they found DNA that did not belong to Sergio and did not belong to Rosemary at the crime scene.
Okay.
That has been,
Now, this is pure speculation.
Of course. So that makes me think that there was another person involved in this.
And then there's
And
parts.
I'm just, my brain's just working to think, okay, all the possibilities. But I mean, it's like they didn't really have enough evidence. What they had was very circumstantial and very, very loose circumstantial evidence at that.
Yeah, I mean, all you could really argue is like proximity, and having the opportunity and to make it to the house, being so close to the restaurant and everything. But yeah, that's I think there's certainly something to the story. We don't know a character involved in this story, either on Sergio's side or Rosemary's side, and it could be a pissed off lover of Sergio's for all we know.
Maybe.
That's he won't leave his wife or whatever. We all know how that story goes. So, yeah, it's unfortunate. I'm sure whatever it was, Rosemary didn't do anything to deserve this type of brutality. And so it's horrible. And the lack of an obvious motive almost
that's so
makes it even worse.
Scary.
Yeah.
Anytime you have a case where there's just no clear motive, it's very scary.
Now, there's the outside chance it's just pure random violence, and this was some kind of a monstrous person who maybe a thrill kill or always wanted to kill someone or try it out or whatever. You do sometimes in thrill kills, and again, pure speculation, you do see a overkill a lot of times because these people have been fantasizing typically about murdering a human, and they'll start with animals or they'll do this or whatever. And then when they get the opportunity to try it out, they kind of go way overboard. The Mountain Murders mascot here in the studio, little Rufus. Heather's taking a picture. He waits, so he's very sad while we record, and he waits for us to get done so we can turn our attentions back to him. And right now, he looks like the saddest puppy ever.
He's really cute, though.
All right, Heather, thank you for that story.
Yeah, most of my information was garnered from old newspaper articles.
Nah, she loves that.
I like to dig around.
What is that service you pay for to access all the newspapers all over the country?
Newspapers.com.
Newspapers.com. Such a creative name, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Newspapersalloverthecountry.com. But anyway, thank you for that. That was an interesting story. Certainly I've never heard of. And yeah, what's next? Oh, do you want to do some more of the Creeper podcast with me?
No.
You sure?
Now, Dylan, I want to wrap this up because we still have a midweek we need to get out.
That's a marathon.
And another episode because we are behind in our releases, Dylan.
We're getting caught
We're
up.
going to drop the bomb on them like we're the Gap Band.
Oh, damn.
Okay.
Oh, is that the you dropped the bomb on me,
Baby,
you dropped the bomb on me.
Oh, yeah.
Doom, ow, ow. All right, guys.
Song makes me want to like roller skate.
Remember, every word and all the content of this episode is Jennifer's fault.
Thank
you,
all Jennifer.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Okay, Dylan, let's wrap it up. If you have a case suggestion, you can always email us at mountainmurderspodcast@gmail.com. And if you've ever thought about joining Patreon, it is a great time to do so. We just uploaded a brand new Patreon exclusive episode, The Murder of Sherry Swally, out of Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, my God. That was so sad.
It is sad.
I've already wrapped it up, baby.
Wrap it up, baby.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm wrapping it
Take
right
candy
now.
from a stranger unless it's wrapped.
I'm squeezing it so tight.
Okay, bye.